I have the honor and the opportunity to introduce the one and only Tolu Aniemena-Osazuwa. I practiced that name very well.
You did well, you did really well.
Awesome. So she's worked in IT for over 10 years, started her professional career as a business analyst, and stumbled on Agile like we all did. After transitioning into a Scrum Master / Agile coach role, she's been very happy. She's an Agilist and very much passionate about helping individuals, teams harness their confidence skills to accelerate forward. Alrighty, so everyone please help me welcome Tolu. Take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this session this evening. It's a Friday night, so I know there's a lot that everyone could be doing, but if you're spending this time with us, then I'm very appreciative of that. So thank you. And also I want to thank Andrea and the Agile GTA team for putting together these sessions and providing me with this opportunity as well. It does take a lot of work and dedication, so kudos to you all. Carla just introduced me, so I had this little intro about myself prepped already, but I think he's done the bulk of the work. But what I would say is, like Andrea asked at the start, what is your superpower? My superpower is building high-performing teams and coaching high-performing team culture. As Carla mentioned in my intro, I transitioned from a business analyst role. I'd worked as a business analyst for a few years, decided that I didn't really like it. And it wasn't quite for me. And then had to work on an Agile project, and I fell in love. Like, I just loved that it was a different mindset, a different way of delivering projects. And I've served as a Scrum Master on multiple development and delivery teams in the last 4 years in both public and private sector. And a little about me personally, I'm married to a wonderful man who also happens to be a Scrum Master Agile coach. And we have 3 really active kids with very unique personalities. And, wearing multiple hats as a wife, a mom, a daughter, a coach, a mentor, a cheerleader, an entrepreneur has really helped me to be agile in various aspects of my life. I found that Agile for me transcends just the workspace. You find that because it's a mindset, it impacts and transforms every other area of your life. All right, so we hear the word Agile, it's the buzzword, everyone talks about Agile. A lot of people, a lot of organizations claim to be Agile. So I know it's the in thing now. And some people just think that, running ceremonies makes you automatically Agile. We may or we may not be aware, but Agile is made up of 4 values and 12 principles. And I find that that's the core of being a true Agilist, like being able to uphold those values and those principles. And Agile is not just an approach to iterative software delivery or an iterative approach to project management that helps teams deliver value to their customers faster and with fewer headaches. It's a mindset, it's an attitude, it's a culture shift. And in my experience, it's an attitude that equates failure and problems with opportunities for learning and also invaluable feedback. So that's why it's very successful for the projects that are being run using the Agile framework. Feedback, collaboration, transparency, these are the key things that you would find on any Agile project. And the intended outcome of any Agile transformation initiative is really the ability for each individual or team or group or organization to renew itself, to adapt, to change quickly, and also succeed in a rapidly changing environment. So being quick to respond to change as well. If you had to compare that to traditional projects or traditional waterfall. And how Agile has impacted my life. For me, like I said earlier, Agile transcends software development. Right now, you find people adopting Agile in event planning, in marketing and advertising, in healthcare, even in organizing our personal lives. Like I have retrospectives with my kids. Like, okay, so we're deciding to implement a new process at home. So what's working? What's not working? How can we improve? And I also, teach them about consensus as well. So, you have your kids all wanting to watch different TV shows on TV. So, okay, as long as 2 of you can agree to one TV show, then that's it. So it's a consensus. So that's one of the impacts I found that, being in the Agile space, working on Agile projects, being with like-minded Agile Agilists has been has been very impactful for me. Another thing that I would say I have found very impactful for me, as well as having the vision and questioning why. So a lot of us get very uncomfortable with challenging the status quo. Well, before I get to there, talking about having a vision as well. So we all have a vision of what we want for our finances, for our children, for our professional careers, for our marriages, for our relationships. So having a vision provides us with a sense of purpose and a direction for ourselves. And it also helps us define our short and long-term goals, and also guides the decisions that we make along the way. So that's one of the things that I found that has been very powerful in my role as a Scrum Master or Agile coach. You know, I work with a team, and one of the first things I would do is, where's the product or the project vision? Where is the roadmap? And if they don't have that, help them to build that. Because I mean, how can you get to your destination if you don't know how to get there, right? So how do you want to get from point A to point B? So that's really one of the first things. And that also applies to my personal life as well. So like if I have a goal, like a fitness goal, like a few of you might struggle with weight loss like I have, or I do, because it's always a constant thing, you know, wanting to be fit and all that. But it's always, you know, great having that vision of what I want to do and what are my short-term goals, what are my long-term goals. And that translates also into with your teams too, and the organization that you're serving. And then I talked about adapting as well and experimenting. So experimenting really is trying new things really. So even with a team, why I like Agile, or why I feel Agile is great, because it gives you the opportunity to experiment and try. Like my teams are usually my guinea pigs. I learn something new, I'm trying it out with them. They don't know they're my guinea pigs, but they really are. I learn something new, I sit down on a conference or a session, an Agile coaching session or a meetup, and I learn something new and I'm trying it out with them. An example is my teams deciding that they didn't want, so we had 2-week sprints initially on one of my teams, and they were complaining that it felt like it was too crowded. Like, you know, the start of the sprint and the end of the sprint is a lot of ceremonies, and that really takes out of the development time. So the team members at Retro, they brought up that concern that, okay, we feel rushed for work. So we decided to try 3-week sprints, and they liked it. And at some point I said, you know, why don't we try a 1-week sprint and see how that goes? And, you know, obviously you'd always hear the complaints, oh, I don't really want to do that. No, what's working for us is great. Well, your job as a Scrum Master is really to challenge that status quo and, you know, also protect the team from complacency. And another thing I talk about on that slide is the Kaithin Philosophy. I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but it's really what it is, the Japanese approach that can be utilized in both personal and professional lives. And what it is it's a belief or an approach that is based on continuous incremental improvements. And the belief is that when you incorporate continuous or incremental improvements, it all adds up to substantial change over time. Right, so just sharing a few, I would say, tips from my Agile journey so far. So I have on the screen, relate to innovate. So someone might ask, what does that mean? And one of your duties as a Scrum Master is to act in the capacity of a facilitator. So it's a really strong skill to have that ability to help to facilitate the exchange of ideas and perspectives, and also to help to promote and remove silos, work silos. So it's very, I'm sure for some of us that are Scrum Masters or aspiring Scrum Masters that have worked on, or actual team members or in development team, I'm sure you sometimes might hear that, oh, it's not my job, you know. So even being able to help to remove that mindset or to remove that silo so that the team becomes self-organizing and then they take ownership of all the work, because what you're aiming for is really a cross-functional, self-organized, self-managing team. And then the next one, okay, so I just wanted to throw this in, just if I go to the next one. This is a very popular African proverb. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So Agile is very collaborative in nature. So I remember one manager that I worked with saying that, you know, there's no superhero mentality here. And that's basically what it is. Even as in the role of a Scrum Master or Agile coach, you're a servant leader. I mean, I know we hear that word a lot, but it's really what it is. It's never about you. not about, even when you feel that, you know, I think this is the best for the team, but it's not your decision. It's you, you know, working with your team to reach a consensus. It's you working with your team. And even if you feel as a Scrum Master that, you know what you're proposing to the team or recommending to the team is probably in their best interest. But what you also want to do is to be able to influence that. So question everything. So that's another, I touched on this earlier on. So being able to ask very powerful questions. Why? And for some of us that have kids, I'm sure you're used to this. Like, mommy, why is the moon made of cheese? And then you answer and they go, why? And then you answer again and they go, why? And then you answer and you go, why? So that's basically what you're doing also in your role as a Scrum Master, Agile coach. You're questioning everything. Really, the simplest questions are usually the most powerful questions. And questions should be asked to challenge the status quo. Questions should be asked to challenge that very common thing that we hear, that that's the way we've always done it. You know, you use questions to become really curious. So questions like why not, what if, is well, that helps the team to also uncover. So even just that overview, that to help them pick up on things that they may not even necessarily notice or be aware of. Because with the developers, if you work with developers, you know that they get very deep in the weeds when they're developing or writing code. So being able to question, like, you know, ask why, or what, or why not, or what if, what if we tried it this other way? And this is not just limited to your development team as well, even being able to ask key questions with your project audience, your sponsors, your PO, your stakeholders, your clients or customers. The next step here is fill your way to success. So there's this popular saying by Thomas Edison that I've not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that do not work. So we often hear on Agile projects, fail fast, fail often. And that really is true. So to succeed, you must be open to failure. So I know for us type A personalities, we know I'm type A, so everything has to be perfect. Everything, like, failure isn't an option, but in an Agile mindset, you have to be open to failure, and it should be okay for your team to fail. Not consistently fail, but you should be open to failure as well, because sometimes things will not go the way you want it to go. I've had, I remember maybe a few months ago, about 2 months ago, I had a spirit review that I was facilitating, and we had just switched from Zoom to Microsoft Teams. I was a huge proponent of Zoom because I liked it, I was comfortable with it. Teams was new to me. And that very day, the team all had slides that they needed to speak to. At the meeting, I think we had about 60 people at that spirit review because I was working on a very high profile project. So we had a lot of stakeholders. The platform community got really interested in the project. And I remember that for the full team, they were all disabled. They just couldn't see anything. And here I was trying to facilitate the meeting and trying to remember everyone's slides and speak to it as best as I could. Like, trust me, it was in my entire history of being a Scrum Master, I don't think I'd had technical difficulties at a sprint review. But then that's part of Agile, right? That's part of you being open to failure, that sometimes things may not work. As much as you prepare, things may not work as you have planned, and being okay with that and being able to communicate, even if you felt it in your heart that, oh my God, this was a total mess up today. But you need to communicate differently to your team, right? Because they're kind of looking up to you as well. So I remember I read through that day after the review. That was the first thing I did with the team. Like, you know what, we did our best, and, you know, these things happen. And we made all the preparations, we had all the preparations in place, but sometimes their circumstances outside of our control. The gotcha here, or maybe not the gotcha. So the learning here is that, the intention here is that we are learning from our mistakes as we tweak, as we reset, and then redo if necessary. And then the question is, how do you feel on the way to success? And that's through the power of experimenting. I mentioned earlier, implementing lessons learned from whatever, you know, failures that you might encounter along the way, and your next iteration, experimentation to discover what works. Even as a Scrum Master, you'll try several things to find what that balance is with your teams, with your stakeholders, on the products that you're building. Like, you're never going to get it at once. It's you experimenting and trying different things. Even with the development team as well, their development practices. also being able to encourage them to experiment as well. And then failing in small steps, which helps to achieve bigger successes. Never thought I was a creative person until I became a Scrum Master. I actually didn't think, I mean, I had friends that can braid and draw and do all these really amazing things with their hands. And I thought, oh no, I mean, I'm better at other things, not being creative. But honestly, this journey has tapped into my creativity in ways that I didn't even think I could. And it's exciting. Like retrospective, I look forward to retrospectives that with my teams, because it's an opportunity for me to try something new. Like I have so many, this is, in the Scrum Master community, we talk about the Scrum Master Toolkit. I have, you know how a carpenter has like a toolbox. So also the Scrum Master, we don't have physical tools, but we have tools and techniques that we keep in the kit. And it's exciting because there's so many things out there, so many resources out there that you can utilize as well. A couple I've used, Fun Retro, Retro Mat, you know, different things. And it's not just even different tools, different techniques, even for retrospective. Like that's exciting. Even stand up with my teams as well. I try to make stand up as exciting as possible. Sometimes it's not even just that those 3 questions. I could decide to ask 4 questions or 5 questions and switch it up a little. Having that agile mindset actually helped really for us to make that adjustment very quickly. Because I think personally that if I was working on a traditional project, you know, with traditional project management, that quick pivot would have been, you know, would have taken a longer time and possibly even impacted team morale as well. So being able to be creative, I think, is really one superpower that every Scrum Master, Agile coach should have. Creative with your tools and techniques, even encouraging the team to be creative as well. Agile isn't just about, you being that servant leader as a Scrum Master, or facilitating the Scrum events, or, you know, teaching Agile 101 or Scrum 101. No, it's about you looking for creative ways to even resolve blockers and impediments. But also just really, 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 really unleashing your creativity. Okay, this is another quote that I like, Benjamin Franklin. Tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. So this is very agile as far as I'm concerned, because you're not telling, it's not a command and control environment where you're issuing commands and telling people what to do. You're teaching them, you're coaching, and you're involving. There's a lot of collaboration, there's a lot of consensus gaining as well. Just, you know, summary of a few things I've touched on earlier. So as I said, be creative and experiment. So this is for aspiring Scrum Masters. This is for Scrum Masters that are already working in that capacity. So being creative and experimenting, like tap into your inner creativity. I draw now. I didn't think I could draw in the past, but I'm drawing stickmen and all sorts of diagrams, you know, for my team. Visual, what's that word? Visual facilitation. I know it's a really good course that I've taken in the past. Be flexible. There's a lot of adjustment and adaptation that happens with Agile or on Agile projects. So you can't be that person that is rigid and doesn't want to change. That's a recipe for disaster. So you're flexible as well. There are times that your teams will drive you up the wall. That's the truth. You're human beings, right? But being flexible and being able to see from their perspective as well, like, okay, you guys decided, I've had a team that's decided once that they didn't want to have stand-ups anymore. They felt it was just repetitive, because we had on our internal messenger, they would also put their stand-up updates there as well. So we felt it was repetitive. Like, you know, if we're already doing this on Rocket Chat, which is the equivalent of Slack, why do we have to do this in person as well? And as a Scrum Master, it was a consensus. I'm like, absolutely, let's try it. And if it doesn't work, we can try something else. I've had teams that don't have 5 daily stand-ups. Like when I say 5, I mean like Monday through Friday. No, I have teams that just have 3, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And it's working really well for them. So really just finding what that flavor is as well, but being very flexible is very, very important. And even with changing requirements as well, you will have stakeholders that will change their minds as well about it. Really, as an Agile project, you are adapting to changes, right? And being very flexible as well, like, okay, and negotiating, because that happens too. Like, and then I said, one other point I mentioned here is be authentic. what's that popular thing I've been seeing on social media? Be you, everyone else is taken. Like, just be you, be uniquely you. There's something very powerful about being your true, authentic self, because that leaves a lasting impression on your teams, on your stakeholders, on your clients, and your organization. And sorry, the next one seems a bit rude, but really, I was just trying to drive a point. Shut up and listen. Like, listening is one of the active skills. Active listening is one of the skills that a Scrum Master should have and harness and improve on always, being able to listen. Because it's a job that you do a lot of talking because you're facilitating meetings all the time. But there should also be a time where you actually pause and just listen. So there's sometimes in some technical huddles with the team, half of what they're talking about, I really don't know. But I'm listening and I'm trying to ask questions as well. Okay, how about, And I always start with that, okay, this might seem like a dumb question, but, and they're always really very willing to just, break it down in very simple business terms to help my understanding. And I found that those questions actually really help too, because they are very, very focused on their development work. I think developers just think about things very differently. And then you being that non-functional person, you're able to provide that different perspective. Learning, it's a continuous improvement exercise. You're constantly learning and new things are coming up every day. The other day I started a course, I'm talking about business agility now. There are new things, new tools, new technologies, new techniques to test out. So networking is very important. Join all those LinkedIn groups. There are a lot of Agile LinkedIn groups as well. I always tell everyone that, Scrum Masters come with, we all abide by the same values and principles of Agile, but our delivery methods are very unique to us. And that's the beauty about Agile. It allows you to be uniquely you. Keep learning and researching as well.